The night was cold and the wind moved softly through the tall blue trees. Ethan walked alone, his boots crunching against the dry alien soil. He carried a small light and a bag of food. The colony's power grid had failed again, and he was supposed to fix a broken generator near the forest's edge. But Ethan wasn't going there for work tonight. He was going there for them. Every night for the past 10 days he had been coming to this place. Quietly. Secretly. He didn't tell anyone. Not his commander, not his co-workers, not even Mara, his closest friend. Because in the shadows of this strange forest lived two beings no human should ever be seen with. An alien mother and her little child. He had found them by accident. That night, 10 days ago, he was scavenging for spare parts when he heard a faint sound like someone crying. At first he thought it was just the wind. But the sound came again, trembling, weak. He followed it through the trees until he reached a small crater. There, under a broken escape pod, lay a wounded alien woman. Her skin shimmered faint silver under the moonlight, and her eyes glowed softly like amber fire. Beside her was a child shaking, clutching her hand. Ethan froze. Every human in the colony knew the rules. No contact with alien species. The galactic law was strict. If someone helped an alien fugitive, the punishment was death. No questions, no mercy. But Ethan wasn't thinking about laws that night. He saw pain. He saw fear. He saw a mother trying to protect her child. He gave them water from his flask. He tore a piece of his uniform to wrap the woman's wound. She said something in a broken voice. He couldn't understand the words, but her eyes thanked him. That night, Ethan left, but he couldn't stop thinking about them. He couldn't sleep, so the next night he returned with food, and again, and again. Now, 10 days later, the routine had become part of his life. He would finish his shifts, sneak out after dark, and walk the path he'd memorized, the one that led to the hidden crater. When he reached the spot, he lifted a branch that covered their small shelter. The alien child, no older than 6, looked up at him. His large golden eyes blinked. Then a smile, nervous but real, spread across his face. "You came back," the boy whispered in broken English. Ethan smiled. "Of course, buddy. I brought you some bread. And a little soup." The mother stirred weakly, sitting up. Her silver skin seemed paler now. "You shouldn't be here," she said softly. "They will find us," Ethan shook his head. "No one comes this far into the forest. You're safe." She looked at him with eyes that were both grateful and sad. "You don't understand. They always find us." Ethan didn't ask who they were. He just placed the food beside her and checked her wound. It was healing slowly. The colony's medicine worked well, even on alien biology. The child, curious, touched Ethan's mechanical wrist brace, the one he used for work. "You fix things," the boy said. Ethan chuckled. "Yeah, I fix things. Machines, engines, sometimes hearts." The boy tilted his head, confused, and Ethan smiled faintly. The forest was quiet except for the sound of wind and faraway thunder. Above, 2 moons glowed, painting everything silver blue. For a moment it felt peaceful, 3 lost souls sharing silence under an alien sky. Then, in the distance, something broke that peace. A faint humming. A patrol drone. Ethan froze. He knew that sound. Metal wings slicing through the air, scanning for heat signatures. If it saw him here, his secret would be over. He turned off his light and whispered, "Hide." The mother wrapped the child close and crawled under the broken pod. Ethan pressed himself behind a tree. The drone passed overhead, its red eye glowing through the darkness. For a few seconds it hovered, silent, searching. Then it moved away. Ethan didn't breathe until the sound was gone. When he turned back, the child was trembling. Ethan knelt beside him. "It's okay," he said quietly. "They're gone." The alien mother looked at him, her voice weak but sharp. "You risk your life for us, why?" Ethan didn't answer right away. He looked at the night sky instead, thinking of Earth, the home he'd left long ago. "Because I know what it's like to lose everything," he said finally. "And because no one deserves to die just for existing." The mother's eyes softened. She reached out and placed her trembling hand on his. "Thank you, human." Ethan nodded, but his heart was heavy. He knew this couldn't last. Sooner or later, someone would notice. Sooner or later, they would come. He stood up, dusted off his uniform, and said, "I'll be back tomorrow. Stay hidden. Promise me," the mother nodded. The child smiled again. waving his small hand. Ethan turned to leave. He walked down the dark path, the sound of the wind following him. For a moment, everything felt calm again. But then, he stopped. In the soft mud ahead, under the moonlight, he saw footprints. Not his, not human. Fresh, deep, leading straight toward the direction of the forest and the place where the aliens hid. Ethan's breath caught in his chest. His pulse raced. Someone else had been here. Someone new. He turned his light off and stepped back, heart pounding. The night suddenly felt darker. Somewhere behind the trees he thought he saw movement, a shadow watching him. And in that moment, Ethan understood something terrifying. He wasn't the only one who had found the alien mother and child. Someone else was already hunting them. The next morning, the sun rose weak and pale over the colony. Thick orange dust floated in the air, glowing in the early light. Ethan sat at his workbench, staring at the broken engine in front of him, but his mind was still in the forest. Those footprints haunted him. Someone else had been there. He tightened a bolt too hard and it snapped. "Damn it," he muttered. Across the room, his coworker Mara looked up. "You okay? You've been acting weird lately." Ethan forced a tired smile. "Didn't sleep much." Mara narrowed her eyes. "Again? What's out there keeping you up? Don't tell me you're sneaking into the forest. Command warned us, it's off limits after dark." He looked away. "Just fixing things." But Mara wasn't convinced. She'd known Ethan for years, ever since he'd arrived from Earth as one of the first mechanics on this outpost. He wasn't the lying type. Now he looked nervous, like a man carrying a secret too heavy for his shoulders. That afternoon, an announcement echoed through the loudspeakers across the colony. "Attention all personnel. A galactic patrol unit has entered orbit. They are searching for 2 alien fugitives. Do not approach the forest perimeter. Report any suspicious movement immediately." Ethan's stomach turned cold. The fugitives, they meant Lyra and her child. He packed his tools quickly, pretending not to care. But inside panic grew. He needed to warn them before nightfall. When the shift ended, Ethan slipped away while the guards changed posts. The path to the forest was darker tonight, and the wind carried a strange metallic taste. He reached the crater, but the place looked different. The broken pod had been moved slightly. Fresh footprints circled around it. "Lyra?" he whispered. No answer. He moved quietly until he saw a small flicker of light, a tiny blue flame hidden between rocks. The alien child, Keel, was sitting near it, playing with pebbles that glowed faintly. When he saw Ethan, his eyes lit up. "You came," the boy said softly. Ethan knelt beside him. "Where's your mother?" "She's inside. She made the fire small so no one sees." Lyra stepped out from behind the pod. Her movements were slow, cautious. "Someone was here last night," she said in her calm, melodic voice. "Footprints. Too large for humans." Ethan's heart skipped. "You saw them too?" She nodded. "Hunters. Not from your colony, then who?" She hesitated. "They are called Traskers. Mercenaries the Council uses to finish what soldiers cannot. They hunt my kind like animals." Ethan felt the ground tilt beneath him. Galactic law didn't just punish aliens, it exterminated them. Lyra looked up at him. "You should leave us. If they find you here, you will die too." He shook his head firmly. "I'm not leaving. You and the boy need protection." Lyra stared at him for a long moment, her golden eyes unreadable. "You risk everything for strangers." Ethan managed a small smile. "I don't see strangers. I see people trying to survive." He handed her a small device. "It's a portable sensor jammer. It'll hide your heat signature from drones for a few hours. Keep it close." Lyra took it carefully. "You are kind, Ethan. But kindness is dangerous in this galaxy." A rustling sound broke the moment. Both of them froze. From beyond the trees, faint red lights moved, slow, searching. Ethan grabbed his flashlight and switched it off immediately. He could hear faint metallic clicking like claws against stone. "Traskers," Ethan whispered. "Hide. Now." Lyra pulled Keel into the pod's shadows. Ethan lay flat behind a rock, barely breathing. The red lights came closer. 2 figures in dark armor, their helmets glowing. One scanned the area with a handheld tracker. Trace of DNA confirmed. One said in a robotic voice, "Signal weak." "They're close." Ethan's pulse thundered in his ears. His fingers twitched near the wrench at his belt. If they found Lyra, there would be no mercy. The Traskers stopped right beside the pod. One lifted his scanner higher. Reading. Interference. Someone's jamming. Before he could finish, thunder cracked across the sky. The storm that had been building all evening finally broke. Lightning flashed, followed by heavy rain. The Traskers cursed, their scanners shorting out from the moisture. Signal lost. We'll resume at dawn. They turned and disappeared into the forest. Ethan waited until their sounds vanished completely. Then he crawled to the pod, soaked, shaking. Lyra emerged slowly, holding Keel. "You saved us again," she whispered. Ethan shook his head. The storm did. But they'll come back. We need to move you farther in. Maybe the old mining tunnels." "The tunnels?" Lyra looked uncertain. "They're abandoned. No one goes there anymore. You'll be safe, at least for a while." She hesitated, then nodded. "All right. Tomorrow night." Back at the colony, Ethan returned just before curfew. He slipped into his cabin, drenched, exhausted, heart still pounding. A red message light blinked on his communicator. He tapped it, and Mara's face appeared on the small screen. "Ethan, we need to talk," she said. Her tone was sharp, suspicious. "I followed you tonight. You went into the forest again, didn't you?" Ethan's chest tightened. "Mara, please," her eyes narrowed. "Who are you protecting out there?" He tried to find words, but none came. The silence between them said everything. Mara looked hurt. "You don't understand what you're doing. If the patrol finds out, they'll execute you." "I can't just watch innocent people die," he said softly. "Innocent?" she whispered. "They're the reason this war started, Ethan. They killed thousands." He shook his head. "You've only heard what they told us." Mara stared at him, torn between fear and friendship. Finally, she said, "Then you'd better pray I keep your secret." The screen went dark. That night, Ethan couldn't sleep. The storm raged outside, thunder shaking the walls. In the darkness, he sat by the window watching the lightning flash over the forest. Somewhere out there, Lyra and Keel were hiding. Alone. Terrified. And now the patrol, the Traskers, and maybe even his own friend knew about them. He closed his eyes and whispered to himself, "Just one more day. I'll move them tomorrow. Then everything will be okay." But deep down he knew. Nothing would ever be okay again, because once you protect something forbidden, the shadows never let you go. The storm had passed, but the air still smelled of metal and wet dust. Morning light spilled weakly through the clouds as Ethan stood by the colony gate, waiting for the patrol announcement. His heart felt heavy, like a machine running out of power. A crowd gathered in the square. The Galactic patrol commander, tall, silver-armored, with a voice that echoed through speakers, spoke from the platform. "All citizens are to remain within colony limits. 2 alien fugitives have been detected. Anyone helping them will face execution under Galactic Law 17C. Betrayal will not be forgiven." The words stabbed through Ethan's chest. He kept his face still, pretending to listen like everyone else, but inside his mind, one sentence repeated again and again. "They're talking about Lyra and Keel." When the meeting ended, Mara walked beside him silently. She didn't speak. She didn't need to. The look in her eyes said everything. She knew he was already in danger. Back in the workshop, Ethan pretended to fix a transport engine. His hands moved automatically, but his thoughts were miles away, in the forest with the alien mother and her child. He remembered her eyes last night, glowing faintly in the storm. He remembered the child's trembling voice saying, "You came." He remembered the footprints. He couldn't lose them. By noon, he made his decision. He packed tools, a battery pack, and a small medical kit. When no one was looking, he left through the southern gate, the one that opened into the abandoned mining fields. The path twisted between stone cliffs and broken machinery left from the early days of colonization. Ethan's boots slipped on the wet ground as he climbed down toward the forest. When he reached the crater, Lyra was already waiting. Her silver skin looked dull under the weak sun. Keel sat beside her, holding a small metal bird Ethan had made from spare parts. "You came," she said softly. "Of course," Ethan replied. "They've tightened the laws. It's not safe anymore. We need to move you." "To where?" she asked. "There are old tunnels beneath the mines. No one goes there anymore. You can hide until the patrols leave orbit." Lyra looked at the sky, her expression unreadable. "They won't leave. Not until we're dead." Ethan frowned. Then I'll make sure that doesn't happen. As they packed what little they had, Lyra hesitated. Ethan, before we go, you must know something. Her tone made him stop. I was not a refugee before this. I was a scientist. I worked for the Galactic Council itself, before your soldiers destroyed our research base. Ethan stared at her. You worked for them? Yes, she said. We were studying the core virus, something that could heal damaged cells across species. But when your military learned of it, they called it a weapon. They destroyed everything. Her voice trembled slightly. My team was executed. I escaped with my child. They called me a criminal. Ethan took a step closer. You were trying to heal, not harm? Lyra nodded slowly. We wanted to save both humans and aliens. But the Council hides the truth because peace threatens their power. Ethan felt anger boiling inside him. His entire life he had believed the Council's orders were just. Now he saw their lies. You don't deserve to die for this, he said. Lyra looked down at Keel, who was asleep beside the broken pod. Promise me something, Ethan. If I don't survive, protect him. He's the last of our line. Ethan didn't hesitate. I promise. No matter what happens, I'll protect him. Lyra smiled faintly, sad, tired, but thankful. Then you are braver than most humans I've known. They left the crater before sunset. The forest grew darker, filled with strange glowing insects and the faint hum of alien plants. Every shadow looked alive. By the time they reached the entrance to the mining tunnels, the sky had turned blood red with dusk. The air smelled of rust and old oil. Ethan crawled through first, clearing the path. Watch your step. There are old cables here. Inside it was quiet, too quiet. Only the soft dripping of water echoed through the tunnels. They found a small chamber deep inside and lit a weak light. This will do, Ethan said, catching his breath. No scanners can find you here. Lyra sat down, holding Keel close. You risked your life again. Why? Ethan smiled faintly. Because I made a promise. She looked at him silently, then nodded. Then I will tell you another truth. My people called humans destroyers once, but maybe they were wrong. Hours passed. The storm outside faded into soft rain. For the first time, Ethan felt something like hope, but that moment didn't last. From the tunnel entrance came a distant echo, boots on stone, the faint sound of metal scraping. Ethan turned off the light instantly. Someone's here, he whispered. Lyra's eyes glowed faintly in the dark. They found us. Ethan grabbed his wrench, listening carefully. Two voices echoed down the tunnel, metallic robotic tones. The scanner picked up heat traces here. Check every passage. Orders are to capture alive, if possible. Ethan's mind raced. There was no other exit. He had led them right to her. He whispered quickly. There's an old ventilation shaft. Hide there with the boy. I'll distract them. No. Lyra tried to protest, but he cut her off. Go. That's an order. She hesitated for only a second, then obeyed. The alien mother vanished into the shadows with her child. Ethan stayed behind, his heart pounding. The soldiers' lights grew brighter as they came closer. He gripped the wrench tighter and took a deep breath. When the first soldier appeared, Ethan threw a piece of metal across the tunnel. It clanged loudly on the opposite wall. There! One of them shouted, chasing the sound. Ethan used that moment to move, kicking over a fuel canister. Sparks flashed. The small explosion filled the tunnel with smoke and dust. Unauthorized human detected, one soldier yelled. Mechanic Ethan Cole, you are under arrest for harboring fugitives. Ethan coughed through the smoke, shouting back, Come and get me! He sprinted into the deeper tunnel, drawing them away from Lyra and Keel. He ran until his lungs burned, until the sound of boots faded behind him. Finally, he collapsed near a wall, gasping. His communicator buzzed suddenly, a message from the patrol HQ. Ethan Cole, surrender immediately. We have detected alien DNA traces near your assigned sector. Any resistance will be punished. He stared at the glowing message. His hands trembled, but his eyes were steady. He had made his choice. He wouldn't run anymore. He wouldn't hide. He would keep his promise, whatever it cost. Ethan deleted the message and whispered into the darkness, You'll have to kill me first. And far away, in the shadows of the tunnel, Lyra's soft voice carried like a prayer. Then may the stars protect you, human. The tunnels were silent again. Only the slow dripping of water echoed through the stone. Ethan sat alone near a flickering lamp, his clothes torn and his face streaked with dust. His lungs still burned from running. He had escaped the patrol, but not for long. He didn't know how much time they had. Hours, maybe less. Lyra and Keel slept in a corner of the small chamber, wrapped in an old thermal blanket. The boy's tiny hands clutched a metal bird Ethan had built from scrap, like it was the only safe thing left in the universe. Ethan watched them quietly. Every time the boy breathed, he felt the same ache in his chest, a strange mix of fear and hope. He whispered to himself, "I promise to keep you safe." I won't break it, but deep down he knew things were falling apart. The patrol now had his name, his face, his ID. If they captured him, the first thing they'd do was search the tunnels. He stood up, checked his tools, and began planning. Maybe he could lead the aliens through the old waste pipes. Dangerous, but it might open onto the cliffs beyond the patrol zone. He was still thinking when a faint echo reached his ears. Footsteps. Human ones. He raised his weapon and turned toward the sound. A soft voice called out, trembling slightly, "Ethan, it's me, Mara." Her figure appeared in the dim light, helmet under her arm. Uniform soaked with rain. Her eyes were wide, searching the darkness. "What are you doing here?" Ethan hissed. "I followed you," she said. "You've been disappearing every night." "I had to know the truth." Ethan's heart pounded. "You shouldn't be here, Mara. It's not safe." She stepped closer, her boots splashing in the puddles. "Not safe for who? You or whatever you're hiding?" Ethan froze. She looked past him and saw them, Lyra half awake, shielding her child. The alien mother's eyes glowed faintly, warning, frightened. Mara's face turned pale. "By the stars. It's true. You've been helping them." Ethan stepped forward. "Mara, listen." She backed away. "Do you even know what you've done? These things killed thousands during the first contact war. They didn't start that war." Ethan's voice cracked. "They were victims of it." Mara shook her head. "You've lost it. You're protecting the enemy." "They're not the enemy," Ethan said. "They're just a mother and child trying to live." Mara's jaw tightened. "If the patrol finds out, you'll be executed. And if they think I knew, you'll drag me down with you." Ethan's voice softened. "Mara, please. I need your help. Just help me move them to safety. Then I'll face whatever comes." She looked at him, really looked at him. The same man she'd worked with, laughed with, trusted. He didn't look like a traitor. He looked like someone protecting something precious, but the fear in her eyes was stronger than her heart, she whispered. "You can't save them, Ethan. You'll only die trying." He took a slow step toward her. "Then I'll die knowing I did the right thing." For a long, heavy moment, neither spoke. Rain dripped through cracks above, tapping like soft clocks counting down. Finally, Mara looked away. "I'll give you one night," she said. "I won't report this yet. But by morning, you need to be gone. All of you," Ethan exhaled shakily. "Thank you, Mara." She nodded, though her face was pale and broken. "You were my friend, Ethan. I just hope you still are." Then she turned and disappeared back into the tunnels. When she was gone, Lyra stepped out from the shadows. "She knows." "I know," Ethan whispered. "She will tell them." Ethan stared into the dark tunnel where Mara had gone. "Not yet. She's buying us time." Lyra's voice trembled. "You trust her?" "I have to," Ethan said quietly. "There's no one else left." But his heart told him something different. Deep inside, he already knew what betrayal felt like, and it was heavy, cold, and coming closer. Hours later, as the colony slept under a blanket of mist, Mara stood in front of her communicator. The patrol insignia glowed red on the screen. Her finger hovered above the report button. She remembered Ethan's eyes, the desperate way he said, "They're not the enemy." But she also remembered the posters on the walls, the faces of soldiers lost in the war, the fear that had haunted humanity since first contact. Her lips trembled. "I'm sorry, Ethan," she whispered. "I can't lose you too." She pressed the button. Transmission sent. Location: abandoned mining tunnels. Suspect: mechanic Ethan Cole. Confirmed contact with alien fugitives. At dawn, Ethan was woken by a strange sound. Distant engines. He crawled to the tunnel opening and looked out. Hover transports were descending through the mist. Soldiers in silver armor fanned out, scanners glowing in their hands. "They're here," he whispered. Lyra grabbed Keel, pulling him close. You must run. No, Ethan said. They'll catch you before you reach the forest. He thought fast. There was a maintenance hatch above, a vent that led to an old water shaft. It was narrow, but the aliens could fit through it. Go that way, he said. Follow the tunnel until you reach daylight. What about you? Lyra asked. Ethan smiled weakly. I'll slow them down. She reached out and touched his hand. You've already done too much. Not enough, he said softly. She hesitated, then pressed something into his palm. A small crystal shard glowing faintly blue. If we don't meet again, keep this safe. It holds everything, the truth, our proof, our history. Promise me. Ethan looked at it confused. What is this? The key to ending the war, she said. But it must stay hidden. The sounds outside grew louder, boots on metal, voices shouting commands. Lyra climbed into the vent with her child. Before disappearing, she looked back at Ethan. May the stars guide you, human, and you, Ethan whispered. The vent closed. Seconds later, soldiers stormed into the tunnel, lights flashing. Ethan stood there in the smoke and shadows, holding the glowing shard in his hand and said nothing. Ethan Cole, the commander shouted. You are under arrest for treason against the Galactic Council. Ethan smiled faintly. Treason? He said quietly. No, I call it humanity. Outside, hidden among the rocks, Mara watched from a distance, tears in her eyes. She whispered to herself, I'm sorry. But the night didn't care. The engines roared, the soldiers shouted, and the tunnels filled with the echo of betrayal. And as the dawn broke over the silent forest, Ethan's promise still burned like a hidden flame in the dark. The cell was small, cold, and smelled of iron. Ethan sat on the floor, wrists chained, staring at the metal wall in front of him. The faint blue light from the ceiling flickered like a dying star. It had been 2 days since the arrest. 2 days since he watched the soldiers drag him out of the tunnels. 2 days since Lyra and Keel vanished into the dark. He didn't know if they had escaped or if the patrol had found them. Ethan pressed his forehead against the cold wall. Please let them be alive, he whispered. The door hissed open. Light spilled into the cell. A familiar voice followed. Still breathing, I see, Mara. She stepped inside wearing her officer's uniform. Her face looked tired, her eyes heavy with regret. Ethan's voice was calm, almost empty. You turned me in. She didn't deny it. You left me no choice. You had a choice, Ethan said quietly. You just picked fear. Mara looked away. They would have killed me if I didn't report you. They're going to kill me anyway, he said. Her voice trembled. I didn't think they'd move so fast. I only wanted to stop you before you got yourself killed. Ethan laughed, a bitter sound. Well, congratulations. You did both. Silence hung between them. Then Mara leaned closer and whispered, Listen carefully. They found traces of the aliens near the southern ridge, but not them. That means they're still out there. Ethan's eyes flickered with life again. You're sure? Mara nodded slightly. But the patrol is setting up scanners across the forest. If they find the mother and child, they'll shoot on sight. He clenched his fists. I can't let that happen. She hesitated. Ethan, what are you planning? I'm going to escape, he said simply. That night, the base went into power down mode for storm protection. The lights dimmed, the guards switched to night shifts, and security systems ran on half power. Perfect timing. Ethan waited until the corridor outside grew quiet. Using a metal pin he had hidden in his sleeve, he worked on the lock. He'd fixed hundreds of engines harder than this. With a soft click, the shackle opened. He slipped out of the cell, heart pounding. The halls glowed with faint red emergency lights. Every step echoed softly. He moved like a ghost. In the control bay, 2 guards were chatting near the main console. Ethan crouched behind a power conduit, grabbed a loose cable and threw it into the coolant pipe. The explosion was small but loud enough to set off alarms. The guards ran toward the smoke. Ethan dashed into the control room, snatched a keycard and opened the storage locker. Inside, tools, rations, and an old plasma pistol. He took them all. Then he turned toward the exit hatch and stopped. Someone was standing there. Mara. She held out a small black chip. You'll need this to disable the drones outside. Don't argue, Ethan frowned. Why are you helping me now? Because I was wrong, she said softly. And because you were right about them. He stared at her for a moment, then nodded. If I don't come back, She cut him off. Don't, just save the kid. He took the chip and ran. Outside, the storm had returned. Rain fell like needles and thunder rolled across the dark sky. Ethan sprinted through the mud, his boots sinking with every step. The forest loomed ahead, whispering with wind and shadows. He activated the chip. Drones above him blinked and dropped from the sky. Dead. The way was clear. By midnight, he reached the old ridge. The trees there were black and twisted, burned from years of lightning strikes. He followed the path he remembered, the same one Lyra had taken through the tunnel's exit. After hours of searching, he saw a faint glow in the distance, blue light like before. He slowed down, moved quietly, and there they were. Lyra, weak but alive, tending a small fire under a rock ledge. Keel was asleep beside her, wrapped in Ethan's old jacket. When she saw him, her eyes widened. "You came back," Ethan smiled faintly. "I said I would." She looked at the bruises on his face, the torn uniform. "They hurt you. I've had worse." He sat down beside the fire. "We can't stay here. The patrol knows this area now. We need to move again," Lyra sighed. "Where can we go?" "They control every world, every ship." Ethan reached into his jacket and pulled out a small disc, one he'd stolen from the base. "We're not flying through their checkpoints. We're going under them." She tilted her head. "Under. It's an old cargo route through the planet's lower atmosphere. Dangerous, unstable, but it connects to the outer rim. If we can repair a shuttle, we can escape orbit." Lyra's eyes flickered with hope and fear. "We don't have a ship," Ethan smiled. "Not yet, but I know where to find one." The next day, while the storm cleared, Ethan scavenged parts from crashed drones and a wrecked transport nearby. Lyra helped him, though her movements were slow. Her wound had reopened. Keel followed, handing him tools, trying to be brave. "Will we fly soon?" the boy asked. "Soon," Ethan said, forcing a smile. "But we need power cells. Big ones." He knew exactly where to get them. The patrol base he had just escaped from. That night, as he prepared to leave again, Lyra stopped him. "You can't go back. They'll kill you." Ethan looked at her calmly. "I've already been dead to them since the moment I helped you." She said nothing. Then slowly she reached out and touched his cheek. "You have a good heart, Ethan. My people would call you Keeper of Light." He smiled softly. "Then I guess I'll have to live up to the title." Back at the base perimeter, he crawled through mud and broken fences, moving like a shadow. He reached the generator field, found the power cells and loaded them into a bag. But just as he turned to leave, a voice echoed behind him. "Freeze." He looked back. Mara stood there, rain dripping from her armor. Her blaster was aimed straight at him. Ethan's heart sank. "Mara, please." She shook her head, tears mixing with rain. "They found the message I sent to delay the patrols. They know I helped you. They're coming for me next." "Then come with us," Ethan said quickly. "There's room on the ship." Her hand trembled. "I can't, but I can buy you time." She threw a detonator toward the guard tower. Explosions lit up the night sky. "Go!" she shouted. Ethan ran. By dawn, he was back at the ridge. Lyra stared in shock as he dropped the glowing power cells beside the half-built shuttle. "You did it," she whispered. "Not yet," Ethan said, looking up at the rising sun. "We still have to make her fly." Behind them, far away, smoke rose from the colony. The patrols would come. The clock was ticking, and in that fragile moment of peace, Ethan felt something deeper than fear. A reason to fight. Not for humanity. Not for the Council, but for a mother and her child who had shown him what humanity really meant. The sky burned red. Ash floated through the air like black snow. The forest that once hid them now smoldered under the fire of patrol ships sweeping low above the ground. Ethan ran through the smoke, dragging a heavy crate toward the small shuttle he'd built from scavenged parts. Every second mattered. Every sound could mean death. "Lyra," he shouted. "Start the ignition." "We don't have much time." The alien mother knelt beside the ship's control panel, her silver hands trembling as she connected glowing wires. Sparks flashed, and the engine gave a faint hum, weak but alive. Keel sat inside the cockpit holding the small metal bird Ethan had made for him. His eyes were wide, frightened. "They're coming, aren't they?" Ethan forced a smile. "Not if we leave first," but the truth was cruel. He could already hear the deep, thunderous roar of patrol crafts closing in. The scanners would find them in minutes. He tossed the last power cell into place. We'll have one shot to break orbit. After that, the cells will burn out. Lyra looked at him. And if it fails? Ethan met her gaze. Then we fall together. She nodded slowly. Better that than being hunted forever. Just then, the comm link on Ethan's wrist crackled. Ethan Cole, a cold mechanical voice said. This is Commander Hest of the Galactic Patrol. You are surrounded. Step out and surrender. The aliens will be executed either way. Spare yourself the pain. Ethan looked toward the horizon. Shadows moved between the trees. Armored soldiers advancing, he whispered. No more running. He reached into his pocket and pulled out the glowing crystal Lyra had given him. What's inside this? Lyra hesitated. Our truth. The proof that the Council created the war to control both our species. If you can send it, the galaxy will finally see. Ethan's jaw tightened. Then that's our mission now. He slipped the crystal into the ship's transmitter. Suddenly, a shot ripped through the air. The blast hit the ground beside them, throwing up dirt and fire. The engine sputtered. Lyra screamed as another blast hit her side. Lyra! Ethan shouted, running to her. He dropped to his knees, pressing his hands against her wound. Her silver blood shimmered under his fingers. She coughed weakly. Ethan, the boy. He's safe, Ethan said, voice shaking. Stay with me. Her golden eyes flickered. Promise me. Protect him. The Council must never get the code. I promise, he said, voice cracking. She smiled faintly, touching his face. You've done more for us than any of your kind, remember. Mercy is stronger than fear. Then her hand went still. Ethan froze, staring at her lifeless eyes. His chest felt like it was collapsing. For a moment the world was silent, no rain, no fire, no breath. Just loss, but then he heard Keel's scream from the ship. Ethan, they're coming! Ethan turned. Soldiers were closing in, blasters ready. He clenched his fists. His promise burned in his mind. He picked up Lyra's body and laid her gently in the ship. Then he sealed the hatch and climbed into the cockpit. The child's tears streaked down his silver cheeks. Is she gone? Ethan's voice broke. She's free now, but we have to go. He slammed the throttle forward. The engines roared, flames bursting from the back as the small ship lifted off. Blaster fire followed them, red streaks of death slicing through the night. One hit the tail. The ship shook violently, alarms blaring. Ethan gritted his teeth. Hold on, kid! The craft shot upward, cutting through the storm clouds. Patrol fighters chased close behind. Inside, the transmitter blinked. Signal locked. Ethan activated it, sending Lyra's crystal data into the open galaxy. Come on, come on. A voice from the transmitter said, Data upload, 73% complete. The ship jolted again. One of the wings exploded. Keel screamed, Hang on! Ethan shouted. We're almost there. Upload, 91%. Another hit rocked the shuttle. Fire burst from the control panel. Ethan's arm burned as he tried to keep the ship steady. Upload, 100%. Transmission complete. He smiled through the pain. We did it. The next second, the engines gave out completely. The ship plummeted, spinning through clouds and smoke. Ethan wrapped his arms around Keel, holding him tight. Close your eyes. They crashed through the canopy of the forest. Metal tore and screamed. When everything stopped, there was only silence, broken by the hiss of steam and the smell of burning circuits. Ethan opened his eyes slowly. His head throbbed. Everything hurt. But the boy was alive. He looked up. The sky was turning golden with dawn. Patrol ships circled far above, searching. But they couldn't see through the dense forest. For now, they were hidden. Keel crawled closer, shaking. Ethan, my mother. Ethan looked at him with tired eyes, voice soft. She wanted you to live, and to be brave. Keel nodded, tears falling silently. Ethan stared at the broken transmitter. Her message is out there now. The truth's no longer theirs to bury. He reached out and placed a hand on the boy's shoulder. We'll keep moving. Somewhere out there, there's a world where you can grow up free. Keel looked up at him. And you? Ethan smiled weakly. I'll take care of you. That's what she wanted. Far above them in orbit, the patrol commander slammed his fist on the console as the transmission spread across every channel in the galaxy. Message origin, human outpost. Content, classified war crimes. It's everywhere, sir. We can't stop it. For the first time in decades, the Council's lies were falling apart. Back in the forest, Ethan sat beside Lyra's resting place, a quiet grave made from stones and metal parts. He whispered, "You didn't die for nothing." The wind moved through the trees like a whisper from the stars. He looked at the boy beside him, and for the first time in years he smiled, not with joy, but with purpose. "You're safe now, Keel, but the galaxy's changing. They'll hunt us both." Keel nodded slowly. "Then we run together." Ethan stood gripping his weapon, eyes steady. "No, kid. We fight together." And as the two figures walked through the smoke and rising light, the camera rose slowly toward the sky, where new ships moved between stars, carrying whispers of a single truth: mercy is humanity's greatest weapon. The days after the crash blurred into one long struggle. Ethan and Keel wandered through the silent forest, far from the colony that once called him traitor. Smoke still rose in the distance, but here the air was clean. The trees glowed faintly at night, lighting their path like living stars. Keel stayed close to Ethan, never letting go of his hand. The boy's silver skin shimmered faintly in the moonlight, his eyes tired but unbroken. "Will they find us?" he asked quietly. Ethan looked toward the horizon where the clouds burned orange with fire. "They'll try," he said. "But we'll stay one step ahead." The boy nodded. "Like my mother did." Ethan smiled sadly. "Exactly like her." The broadcast heard around the galaxy 3 nights later. They reached the old satellite relay station, half buried in vines, forgotten by time. Ethan powered it up using one of the stolen power cells. The screens flickered to life, showing a flood of signals. Every channel, every system, every colony. The same message was playing across them all. A voice, Lyra's voice. "We were never your enemies. We were your reflection. The Council made you fear us to control you, but there is another way, one built on mercy, not fear." Images followed, proof of the Council's crimes, destroyed cities, hidden experiments. The truth had spread across the stars. Ethan felt his throat tighten. "She did it," he whispered. "She really did it." Keel looked up. "Now everyone will know." "Yeah," Ethan said softly. "But that means they'll come after us even harder." Keel frowned. "Then where will we go?" Ethan looked out the broken window at the endless night sky. Somewhere new, somewhere the Council can't reach. A new home they traveled for days through valleys, mountains, and fields of glowing dust. Finally, they found a cave near a river that shimmered like liquid glass. Ethan built a small shelter with old ship panels. It wasn't much, but it was safe. At night, they lit a small fire. Keel drew stars in the dirt while Ethan repaired a transmitter from scrap. "What are you building?" Keel asked. "A beacon," Ethan said. "Not for them. For anyone still good enough to listen." The boy tilted his head. "Will someone come?" Ethan smiled faintly. "Someone always does." The ghosts of the past one evening, as the twin moons rose, Keel asked quietly, "Do you miss your world?" Ethan stared at the fire. "Earth?" He nodded slowly. "Sometimes. But the Earth I left doesn't exist anymore. The people I cared about are gone. What's left of humanity now? Maybe it's just us." Keel looked up. "Then I'll be human too." Ethan laughed softly. "You already are, kid. You're braver than most humans I've known." The boy smiled. An innocent, bright smile that cut through the darkness like light. But the peace didn't last. That night, a faint hum filled the air. Drones. The patrol had found their signal. Ethan's heart jumped. "Keel, hide!" The boy crawled into the shelter as Ethan grabbed his weapon. Red light swept through the trees. A voice echoed from the loudspeaker. "Ethan Cole, surrender the alien child. You cannot run forever." Ethan took a deep breath. "Maybe not forever," he whispered, "but long enough." He fired, hitting the first drone. Sparks rained from the sky. 2 more followed. Ethan ducked behind rocks, returning fire with deadly precision. When the smoke cleared, the forest was quiet again. The drones lay in pieces, their red lights fading. Ethan dropped his weapon, breathing hard. He turned and saw Keel standing behind him, eyes wide. "You fought them," the boy whispered. Ethan knelt and placed a hand on his shoulder. "I promised your mother I'd protect you. I won't break that promise." The message of hope weeks passed. They rebuilt what they could. Other signals started reaching them. Distress calls, rebellions, messages from human and alien worlds rising together. The galaxy was changing. One morning, Keel pointed at the sky. Look, ships, human and alien, were flying side by side. Not in battle, but in peace. The broadcast had worked. The truth had started something unstoppable. Ethan watched with pride and sorrow in his heart. "She'd be proud of you, kid," he said quietly. Keel smiled. "And of you. Stay forever." That night, as they sat by the river, the stars reflected in the water like a million tiny lights. Keel leaned against Ethan's arm. "Ethan, can I ask something?" "Anything. When I grow up, can we go home?" Ethan looked at him gently. "We already are home, Keel." The boy frowned. "Here?" Ethan nodded. "Home isn't a place. It's the people who choose to stay with you. No matter what happens." Keel thought about it, then smiled. "Then you'll stay forever?" Ethan looked at the fire, at the stars above, and then back at the child who had become his world. He placed his hand over Keel's and said quietly but firmly, "Forever." The camera pulls away, past the fire, past the forest, up through the clouds where new ships cross the sky. Some carry refugees, some carry hope, and somewhere among them, the message of one human, a mechanic who defied a law to protect a life, still travels from star to star. Mercy makes us stronger than war ever will. The screen fades to black. Music swells. The end.